again, you have very little respect for diversity of thought. It's amazing to me the lack of inclusion of diverse viewpoints while claiming you're there wanting diverse viewpoints with DEI. Alrighty. If you've been around on this channel long enough, you know I have no love for DEI statements. I do view them as ideological litmus tests, and that has often been shown time again by the rubrics used in the grading of DEI statements, that basically if you say certain things, that basically throws you out, and it's off throws you off the path there. And the reason I have a problem with this, and the reason I talk about it with respect to science, is frankly, science doesn't advance at all without respect for diversity of thought. Not necessarily just the notion of diversity as it's put forward by DEI professionals, but actual diversity of thought in here. And you can't have that in sciences if you're implicitly telling your students, your young faculty, and the like, that, well, you have to profess this thing or you can't get a job, which is going to prompt people to lie so they can get a job, but also to those who don't lie, make it very difficult for them to get a job and promote groupthink on campus, which is not healthy for a university, and it's not healthy for science. And so there's been a number of folks, John Saylor, among others, the Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression, which we're going to get into that in a minute because this is a story related to their most recent thing. So if you're wondering why I've been talking about DEI statements, that's the large part of the reason why, is because it doesn't help foster viewpoint diversity in sciences at all. It tells folks that you have to have a particular viewpoint to be a university faculty, which, you know, is really if you really want to be so inclusive of diverse viewpoints, then a DEI statement is really the antithesis of that, because, well, you're chasing away people with diverse viewpoints. Anyway, UC Berkeley, coming from the College Fix here, UC Berkeley only hired professors who had enough DEI points, according to documents. Applicants need to demonstrate, quote, specific plans and goals for advancing equity and inclusion. Applicants for teaching jobs, now this is teaching admittedly, but teaching does have an impact on what students will go on to do. Applicants for teaching jobs at the University of California, Berkeley lost points during interviews if they did not demonstrate sufficient awareness and commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion, according to recently released documents. The Foundation for Individual Rights and Expression obtained the documents after a 2-year battle for information on the public university's use of diversity statements in hiring. While the University of California system has not hidden that it wants applicants to support DEI as part of hiring, the new documents shed light on how it's been implemented. Fire reported on June 14th, quote, the university expects all new faculty hires to be committed to advancing diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging during the 2018-2019 academic year. Berkeley's Life Sciences Department launched an initiative to advance faculty diversity. As part of the initiative, applicants for full-time faculty positions were required to submit statements on their, quote, contributions to diversity, equity, and inclusion, including information about their understanding of these topics, record of activities to date, and specific plans and goals for advancing equity and inclusion. The statements are used to weed out applicants during the first rounds of interviews. A rubric obtained by Fire showed that applicants were given the lowest possible score if they seemed, quote, uncomfortable discussing diversity-related issues, or they had, quote, had little experience with these issues because of a lack of exposure, but then not provide any evidence of having informed themselves. Informed here being in the preferred approaches, I'm presuming with this, but anyway. The best candidates, quote, discuss diversity, equity, and inclusion as core values that every faculty member should actively contribute to advancing. No, you don't have the right to force that to any faculty member. Candidates were also expected to be knowledgeable about DEI, but were not just expected to be knowledgeable about DEI, but also participate in diversity activities. In other words, if you really don't think this is worth anything, you still have to participate in it, according to the requirements for faculty positions at the University of California. The ideal candidates would have, quote, organized or spoken at workshops or other events, depending on career stage, aimed at increasing others' understanding of diversity, equity, and inclusion as one aspect of their track record, or served as a leader in a student or professional organization that supports underrepresented individuals. Unsurprisingly, all 5 of the life sciences department's new faculty hires endorsed Berkeley's commitment to DEI initiatives, Fire reported. The use of a DEI portfolio in hiring is not unique to UC Berkeley. For example, Indiana University's medical school will consider faculty work on DEI issues in promotion and tenure considerations, which is frankly not good. The new policy requires, quote, candidates for promotion and or tenure to demonstrate efforts to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, according to the Faculty Affairs website. Some opportunities to qualify as sufficiently woke include the creation of workshops for high school students to address LGBTQ plus awareness and resources, or take classes on, quote, microaggressions, unconscious bias, upstander, what the hell is upstander? Training, culturally relevant mentoring, and inclusive teaching, according to a sample list as previously reported by the College Fix. So, in other words, if you're at Berkeley, they were basically demanding that you that you engage in these kinds of things. And I don't think these rubrics are unknown here, because we've talked about them ad nauseum here. And I give credit to John Saylor, among others, whose reporting and work on this kind of thing has gotten this stuff thrown out at different universities, as it should. And this kind of thing. So, But this is where it gets interesting. So, Fire forces Berkeley to turn over records related to DEI hiring policy after 2-year delay. Yeah. This is where I get annoyed, because I frankly, yeah, you need diverse perspectives in science. You need it, because we end up countervailing each other's any biases that exist. We end up countering them, and that helps at getting at the truth. I'll Jonathan Rauch see the Constitution of Knowledge for that, when he explains it quite well. But this is, the DEI statements are not the way to do it. And here, it took Fire a while to get hold of all of this, because the University of California, Berkeley did not want to give it up, and UCLA didn't want to give it up either. Even though, as a public university, you are required to share these things. University of California, Berkeley used diversity statements to weed out candidates for faculty positions, according to public records finally released more than 2 years after Fire requested them. Many universities now require or invite current or prospective faculty to demonstrate their commitment to DEI, often through written statements that factor into hiring, research, evaluation, promotion, or tenure decisions. Boy. Statements informed the hiring committee's first round of review. If the applicants' contributions to DEI did not meet a high standards, they were eliminated from consideration. Fire wanted to know more, so in March of 2021, we filed a public records request seeking information on how exactly the university was using and evaluating these diversity statements. And then we waited and waited and waited. 2 years later, Berkeley still hadn't handed over the records. The California Public Records Act requires that public agencies make records promptly available. Berkeley finally produced the records in May of 2023 after Fire sent a demand letter threatening legal action. It took Berkeley 795 days to comply with its duty under the act. Hardly prompt. They were hoping to be forgotten about, let's put it that way. Access to public information serves as an important role in protecting individual rights. This is not the first time Fire has intervened to prevent a public university from playing fast and loose with public records laws. In 2019, Fire sued the University of California, Los Angeles for failing to fulfill our request for records related to former U.S. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's campus visit. A California court ruled that UCLA violated the Public Records Act when it took 404 days to hand over 13 pages of information. According to the rubric the hiring committee used to evaluate statements, candidates who discount the importance of diversity. See, this is something I actually would be very curious about. It's not obvious, but I would be quite curious with these diversity statements what they mean in this case by diversity. And do they think viewpoint diversity is important? Because that's what I think of when I think of diversity. Anyway. Or who don't feel personally responsible for advancing diversity, equity, inclusion receive lower scores. Yeah. If you don't feel like you have to be an activist in these kinds of things, you get screwed as the lowest score. In other words, if you actually just want to do science, Berkeley doesn't want you. That's the way we can put it that way, which is terrible. Again, you have very little respect for diversity of thought. It's amazing to me the lack of inclusion of diverse viewpoints while claiming you're there wanting diverse viewpoints with DEI. Reminds me very much of Herbert Marcuse's repressive tolerance, where you tolerate everything if it agrees with you, but you don't tolerate any dissent. Goodness knows. As would anyone who defines diversity only in terms of different areas of study or different nationalities, but doesn't discuss gender or ethnicity, race. Yeah. The rubric even penalizes candidates who, quote, state that it's much better not to have outreach or affinity groups aimed at underrepresented individuals because it keeps them separate from everyone else or make them feel less valued. So it would seem that Berkeley wants... Berkeley seems to want segregation. Anyway, unsurprisingly, okay, ultimately, the records will help Fire's ongoing, yeah. Okay, I did things there. I didn't want to dwell on it too much. But it's about time that Fire got a hold of these things. And I mean, you can see they left a bunch of the documents up here, Fire, with the things that, different enrollment things and what have you with the requirements, with the rubrics, of course. We just flipped over to that. And of course, I'll leave all this linked in the description for you. But, it's pretty damn disgusting, to be honest. There's very little respect given for diversity of thought and not being very inclusive of diverse perspectives, which is quite a necessity, actually, for science. So, forgive me if I think this is lousy. Anyway, let me know what you think. Hit the like button on the way out the door. Comment on the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, all that lovely good jazz. Until next time, I'm Adrian. Stay curious, everybody.